Good evening and welcome, everyone. I am Lauren Schwartz, President and CEO of the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia, and I'm so glad that you've joined us tonight from Chile, from Philadelphia, and everywhere in between. For over 70 years, the Council has connected Philadelphia to the world by creating fresh and nonpartisan perspectives and civil discussions on the world's leading challenges and opportunities. Tonight is a new part of that legacy, where we launch a brand new series for 2021 called Beyond Our Borders, Philadelphia and the World. In this series, we will explore a specific country for many months from many different lenses. In addition to speaker programs like this one, we will bring Chile into the classroom for the thousands of students who participate in our World Affairs education program. You will have the opportunity to travel to Chile, to experience and test what you have learned firsthand, deepening your understanding and appreciation for this unique country. The World Affairs Council of Philadelphia selected Chile for its robust and long-standing ties to our region, based on an enormous volume of Chilean trade coming through our seaport and our airport. There's strong business infrastructure between Philadelphia and Chile, and of course, there are many lasting cultural and people-to-people connections that we would like to celebrate. We also have a little something in common too. Chile is embarking upon a democratically chosen process to rewrite their constitution. Now, of course, a city like Philadelphia took notice, and we'd like to talk a bit about constitutions tonight. Additional programs will take a deep dive into a comparative post-COVID economic outlook between Chile, Argentina, and Brazil. Additional programs will cover the food industry, and we'll hear how Chile is leading in food innovation and technology, working on solutions to combat climate change and hunger, alongside the massive agricultural industry that feeds their country and ours. Of course, we must talk about Chilean wine too, so be on the lookout for a virtual Chilean wine tasting in May, complete with wines sent directly to you. We'll explore Chile's commitment to ecology and the environment through tourism, and our high school students will have a chance to simulate Chile's constitutional reform during a summer seminar. And to cap off the series, we're offering a travel opportunity to Chile early next year, where you can experience what you've learned so far. The travelers who join us will, of course, visit the wineries that we'll meet in our virtual tasting. They'll experience the culture and people that you'll meet as speakers throughout our program. In fact, our two Chilean senators joining us tonight have invited our travelers to lunch in the Chilean Senate during our trip to Chile next year. I can't think of a better way to follow up from this conversation on their constitution than to go have lunch in the Chilean Senate next year and see how they're doing. As you can tell, we're delighted to present this Beyond Our Borders series, Spotlight on Chile, in partnership with the Chilean-American Chamber of Commerce of Greater Philadelphia and the Honorary Consulate of Chile in Philadelphia. We are grateful to our sponsors for this series, the Delaware River Stevedores, the Port of Philadelphia, Western Fumigation, the Maritime Exchange for the Delaware River and Bay, and Tasty Fruity International. Thank you also to our promotional partner for this evening, the Consular Corps Association of Philadelphia. I'd like to give a warm welcome to our members, guests, and students and teachers joining us tonight as well. Please do send us your questions for our speakers to answer throughout the program. You can use the questions function to do that. And now I'd like to introduce my friend and our colleague, Benjamin Leavenworth, the Honorary Consul of Chile for Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Southern New Jersey. Benjamin has been working with the Council and the Chilean-American Chamber of Commerce behind the scenes to help us put together this series, and we are so grateful for his expertise and insight. Benjamin, I pass the virtual mic over to you. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you, Lauren. It is just such a delight to be here tonight. And before I get into the prepared remarks, I just have to acknowledge that it's been a lot of work over the last many months between various organizations to not only bring this evening together, but also the whole program. So it's actually a really lovely way to kick off the series, which highlights the kind of work that the World Affairs Council does. So first of all, again, Lauren, thank you so much. I'm really pleased to be here for this first event in the Beyond Our Borders Spotlight Chile series. I profoundly thank the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia for hosting this important series and tonight's discussion. I also want to mention that the World Affairs Council has been a terrific partner to Chile over the many years, and some years ago, thanks to the World Affairs Council, President Piñera, who had recently left office, had his first international event after leaving the presidency in Philadelphia at the World Affairs Council. So, we have a good record of working together. I'd also like to add a note of thanks to the Chilean-American Chamber of Commerce and our sponsors. Without you, this program and the series would not be possible. So our topic tonight, Chile's constitutional reform, is an important one, not only for Chile. Frankly, the whole world is in some ways questioning some of the institutions of democracy. And in the case of Chile, the process of rewriting the current constitution, which was approved, the current constitution in Chile was approved in 1980. And this process of reevaluation of the constitution for many Chileans promises a democratic renewal for the country, and frankly could serve as a as a guiding light for many many nations who are questioning their own institutions of democracy. But the years-long push to replace the charter hasn't been easy. But now the soon-to-be-formed Constitutional Assembly, made up of an equal number of men and women, and including people from all backgrounds, there is hope for addressing issues of inequality and to create a political and social agenda that serves all Chilean citizens. Now, here to discuss this revolutionary constitutional referendum and the process ahead to rewrite Chile's governing document, it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's speakers. First, I'd like to introduce Senator Juan Pablo Letelier, who represents the region of the Libertador Bernardo O'Higgins, the sixth region just south of Santiago. And just to note, there's a special relationship between the Senator's region and the Philadelphia region, and that's linked to the trade that comes through the ports in the three straits in our region. And the Senator has been a great supporter of trade with the Philadelphia area. Senator Letelier is a Chilean-American economist, and he has worked throughout his life as a champion of human rights, peace, and stability and democracy. He began his political career in 1979 when he joined the Socialist Youth of Chile and currently serves in the Chilean Senate as a member of the Socialist Party. He has worked on issues of transport and telecommunications, of labor and social welfare, and of foreign relations, amongst others, throughout his tenure. And next, I'd like to introduce Senator Kenneth Pugh, who represents the region of Valparaiso in Chile, a region that goes from Rapa Nui, or Easter Island, in the middle of the Pacific, through Robinson Crusoe Island to the Andes Ranges. From just to give you a sense of perspective, this is the same distance from San Francisco to New York. Senator Pugh is a retired Vice Admiral of the Chilean Navy and an electronics engineer. As an admiral, he commanded the two largest naval districts, was the Director of Naval Intelligence, and served as the Director General of Personnel of the Navy. As a senator, he has promoted new legislation regarding cybersecurity, data privacy, digital transformation of the state, critical infrastructure protection, and a new constitutional reform to recognize a new right, the citizen's right to the digital relationship with the state. Our moderator for this evening is Haley Boyle, the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia's Vice President of Programs. Haley, I pass our virtual mic over to you and Senator Pugh and Senator Letelier. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. It's been a pleasure working with you in lead up to this program. And welcome to Senator Letelier and Senator Pugh. I know that we've asked both of you to present a couple minutes of opening remarks. Senator Pugh, I would love to start with you, and then we can turn it over to Senator Letelier before we begin our moderated discussion.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Haley. Benjamin, thanks for your words, and also Lauren. It's very important to be connected, and these pandemic allow us to be in contact by the internet. But the cloud is not in the skies; it's under the sea through the fiber optic cables. So actually, this is the real cyberspace, and we have to understand it. Trade has been the way our country has opened to the world, and we are an example of an open economy. We are one of the countries that have signed most free trade agreements all around the world. Even now, we have China, who is investing in our critical infrastructure because Californian companies sold, for instance, the electric distribution of my region, Chilectra, to State Grid. So we have everybody here working. What we can teach about democracies is based on freedom, on what we think it could be a good example. As a country open to the trade by sea, we are sea traders, 94% of our trade goes by sea, and Philadelphia, of course, is one of our most important destinations for fresh fruit, for instance. My country is a fresh fruit exporter, also my region, and I'm very proud of it. We were the first one to be recognized after 9/11 attacks by FDA to having in compliance with all the new regulations. So we fulfill regulation, and we try to do it as best as we can do. This country is going in a process of development, and we're in the trap of the middle income, and we have to decide how we're going to do it for the next years. That's main point why we're in the process of working on this constitution. 78% of the population who went to the polls were asked if they want to keep the new constitution or make a new one. They decided that we need a new constitution. And we respect that because that's democracy. And then in the polls, we have to say, okay, we have to make it to happen. And how? Well, we are going to have elections once again, now the 10th and 11th of April, in order to elect the members of these constitutional group. And it's going to be a convention, the same one that you have in your own constitution, which is a way where you can make reforms. Up to now, our old constitution of the 80s had received many amendments, many reforms. Even I'm proposing one, the one that you were told, because I'm very aware of this new world. This is a digital world. We're going to a fourth industrial revolution, and we need to understand it. And we have to understand the new relationship between the citizens and the state using technology. Technology then is something good, but we have to preserve, once again, freedom, the freedom of speech, the freedom that people have even in the cyberspace. The process is going to be very interesting, and Chile is a social lab. So we don't have any examples to present you now, but we have a process that we have gone through. If we have difficulties, we have to find a way in order to overcome. Juan Pablo Letelier, who will be making a speech very short, he is member of the Socialist Party. He is part of the opposition. I am part of the government, and I'm thinking that the only way we have to overcome this problem is precisely protecting our democracy. Now, how we can protect the democracy? First, we have to remember that the freedom of speech is something that we humans have. It's not a right for an artificial intelligence or the bots. So we don't have to allow them to destroy our democracy because of fake news or deep fakes. I can remember the 5th and 6th of January when your capital was assaulted. And well, that's an issue. We have to handle the situation. The people, if they go through extremes and they are pushed and use the social networks to do extreme things, of course, those things could happen. We're learning about that. We don't know yet the best way to regulate it, but we have to understand the problem. And that's one issue that we have to overcome during this process. The second one is people that are used to think that making use of the violence will allow them to achieve their objectives. We don't think that's the way to do it, and we think it's a way to debate. And that's why a convention is the best way to solve this. The same as in your constitution, 2/3 at least are required in order to get agreements. Even you have some more difficult ones, that is 3/4. Well, that's a difficult amount of votes in order to gain a sort of a common understanding of what is something important. Constitutions are the way we regulate everything. It's the way we limit the power. It's the way we give authority to each one. And that limit of the power is the one that we have to understand and make all the check and balances required in order to adjust to this new scenario. Chile then is starting a process, and we are doing it even in one of the worst scenarios, in a pandemic, and we are facing now a very critical sanitary situation with people being infected by the virus, but also we have been very active on the vaccination process. More than 6 million Chileans have received the vaccine from 18 millions we are all together. So we are leading on vaccination. But we are going to a lockdown. Santiago, on Saturday, will start a general lockdown, as most of the country, 80% of the country, in order to assure the best conditions for the elections of the people that will go to this convention. Because we believe that the only way to solve our problems is using democracy and expressing it, voting. So we're going to make the vaccination to everybody, make them to be locked down for a period in order to control, and then open it and regain again the normal process in order to start the voting process second week of April. It's a very extreme plan. Some people say, no, you should delay the elections. Well, we decided instead of one day, make it in 2 days, so the people will not be together, they will not be crowded. And also try to keep the date, because it's important for the confidence. If you trust the system and you believe it, you have to give all the opportunities for the system to work. So you're now invited to follow us using the networks, the TV channels, all the media, all the one that will be on internet. Please be aware that always you will find fake news. Try to make a fact check in order to take the ones that is not good, and to follow the process, because Chile is going through a process that makes a new approach of what we want as a country. And the commitment that we have, at least at the Congress, is that one. We have decided that this is the way to do it. We respect what is going to be done. And later on, when we have to vote if this is the constitution we really want, well, we have to go through it. And we don't know yet if we're going to end with a two chambers Congress, or it's going to be a one chamber Congress, if everything will be dissolved, if the authorities and the balance of power will change. Nobody knows it. And that's the most amazing part. And that's why I say, look what we're doing, the way we're doing, all the things that are being prepared in order to this to happen. As my last words, I would like to thank this opportunity, because it's very interesting for us to share it with others, the process we are going through, but what we see in the future. And in the future, we see something much better, because most of the things that we have seen are not working well. We could improve them. And that is what I'm working. And I think all the people that is at the Congress now expect the same. Everybody wants things to be better. Everybody wants our people to be better. And everybody wants the country to be better. But the second part, we are facing the economic problem that everybody's having. And we have, once again, to recover the economy, to open all the ports, to make the export as fast as they are, to open all the places so our commerce, our trade through the sea could be reestablished. There's no way we can do a new country with a new constitution if we're not able to overcome first the sanitary problem and the economic problem. Having said that, I thank you very much for this opportunity, and I open to all your questions. Thanks again, Haley, and I'm open for all the questions you have.
Thank you so much, Senator Pugh. We'll turn it over to Senator Letelier for his opening remarks now.
Thank you, Haley. I'm without a camera for now because my internet connection is not very good.
Understood, no worries.
I want to greet you.
Yeah, we understand sometimes in this day and age.
I want to greet you. I want to greet Benjamin. I want to greet all the persons participating. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I want to greet my colleague, Kenneth Pugh, with whom we share a task in the National Senate in a very special time in our history. And allow me to start my first comment with historical context. Chile was the perhaps the poorest colony in South America, definitely in the Southern Cone. It was a colony which depended on the dependence of Peru, which was the headquarters of one of Spain's operating quarters. Our process of independence was a difficult one 200 years ago. And in the first 100 years of our independence, it was a very conflictive and complex process. Chile, as I said, was a very poor colony. And during its first 100 years, what it did as a country was to expand its territory. And part of its expansion of territory, it's what explains part of the themes we will be able to talk about after. On the first hand, it expanded south towards territories which had been recognized by the Spanish Empire as a different territory, but the new Chilean independent government took possession of this expansion towards the south against the indigenous people who occupied those territories for around 14,000 years. It has been complex. That was the first part of the expansion of the Chilean territory. The second part of the expansion was towards the north, a conflict with Peru and Bolivia. This is what 100 years of Chile's independence. The second 100 years of Chile's independence was marked with a process of the construction of the national state, its independence, the creation of
Senator, I think we may have lost
to say that from 19 process of construction of a national state, which was very important with the establishment, as occurred in many countries of Latin America, of the creation of institutions of the state. That is what marked the second stage of our process of independence. Now, in the 1900s, 1925, Chile established a constitution, which was very important. It established the way Chileans organized themselves, in which the different political sectors could promote their ideals, their models of society. One of the particular realities of Chile, and everyone knows it from a political science, is that Chile was the first society in the West who elected a leftist government through democratic processes, which opted towards a different model of development, a non-capitalist model of development, which was represented by President Salvador Allende. That created a big conflict in the society. It ended up in the breakdown of the society, and it ended not only with a military coup and a military government, but it established from the constitutional point of view. I don't want to go into the whole debate of what happened during that period of time, in which with Senator Pugh, we may have different points of view, but from a constitutional point of view, the first time in the Constitution, the military government of the time, in 1980, established a constitution which included within its articles an economic.
Senator, I think we lost your audio again.
Hello?
Yes,
in
you're back now.
Okay, in which the Constitution of 1980 established an economic model. I will call it an extreme neoliberal economic model, in which it was established certain criteria regarding the role of the state, in which the state was considered a subsidiary role in the society, in which it was established in the Constitution in a very von Hayek type of model, in which the market forces established the way people should relate amongst themselves, and in which the public goods, the public benefits of education, of health or access to health, to environmental goods was not guaranteed as a product, but as an opportunity of I'd say business opportunity. Business opportunities were guaranteed in education, in health, and in other economic sectors in which the state was secondary, but it was not established that these public goods were guaranteed by the state. In 1990, we recuperated democracy, and I'm trying to put a historical context of the debate we will have. From 1990 till the present, what occurred in Chile was that democratic governments came back to power. They established a debate in the society for the last 20, 30 years. There was I'd say a consensus, not in the Constitution, but yes, in the society, that Chile should develop exporting its product, should develop guaranteeing certain types of, establishing certain types of guarantees for its export model, for fiscal responsibility, for the respect of certain types of institution, the autonomy of the central bank, amongst other things. But there was not, and there has not been a constitutional consensus since we recovered democracy regarding the rules of the society. In 2019, we had a tremendous social conflict. It was triggered by something which was secondary, the increase of public transport in Santiago is what was the common element which created a social uplifting, which we had never witnessed in Chile's history, and which in November of 2019 was established that we will live and we will have a constitutional process. Chile has never had a constitutional debate with the participation of Chileans. All our constitutions were always elaborated by the elite, different elites in different moments. And now for the first time in our history, we will have this debate of a constitution, of what are the interests of the people. Now, what is one of the challenges of this constitutional debate? And I will take the concepts of some political scientists, as Bauman or others, is that we live a state of a liquid democracy in all our societies. This is not a problem of Chile, it's not a problem of the US, it's not a problem of Spain. Increasingly, we all are facing the same challenges of the limits of representative democracy. How many citizens feel participant of this type of organization of society, of democratic representation, and how many people need government to resolve their needs today. This is part of the elements which will be in our debate of this constitutional process, in which I believe, and I will make this general statement, and forgive me for being so long in my introductory comments. I think that one can be I'd say from abroad, be fairly confident that the rules of the relationships of economic processes with Chile will not change significantly, but there will be a debate, as there is in many other countries, which is how people are empowered in participation, in transparency, and above all, in guaranteeing that our societies will not validate one, social differences in a vast manner which exist, and environmental interests, which are those that are challenging one way or another, or I'd say our capacity as a species to survive in the atmospheres we are creating. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Letelier. So in both of your opening remarks, I hear a lot about, the historical context from you, Senator Letelier, and the importance of compromise from you, Senator Pugh. And I think that, there's so much importance in political cooperation now that your country is embarking on this process of rewriting its constitution. It requires a significant amount of attention to detail, the ability to listen to viewpoints that you might disagree with, a willingness to compromise, to consider different groups of people and political opinions. So, this is a daunting task, and I would love to get your thoughts on, do you think that these 155 delegates of the Constituent Assembly who will be tasked with this undertaking and who will be selected in April, as you indicated, Senator Pugh, are they up to this task? And what do you hope to see come from it? Senator Pugh, why don't we start with you?
Okay, thank you very much. First, our new things that we have decided is the representation of First Nations. And this is important because, as Senator Letelier focused, we have a large population of people from Mapuche origin. And well, not only then, I represent the region where we have the Rapa Nui, that's people from the Polynesia. And also in the southernmost part is people that represent the Yagan, and those are like the Inuits. And they are going to be all represented. And this is very important. And we decided to have reserved seats for them. Second one, it will be a mix of men and women in a most 50% basis. So this is quite unique. And we all agree that that's important. Who will be elected? It's going to be difficult to say. Some people say that the known faces, public people, or maybe some special character could be part of the constitution, of the convention. Yeah, of course. But also, there are some people that even left the Senate, for instance, Senator Felipe Arvoe, and he said, no, I want to be there, and I'm available for that. So he quit the Senate in order to start a process. And that's important because it's a good example. If you want to be part, you have to make it the people to decide. And he is offering, once again, for the country. So we have to wait until the results. It's too early. Second, it's going to be quite amazing sort of election because we're going in a lockdown. So you have to imagine that people will be doing their campaigns using, well, social networks. All the social network activity will be very high. So it's the only way we can go. We have at least a good coverage. 80% of the population have access to mobile internet. Not the quality, good quality. Even the Senators Letelier's internet quality is not that good. But we have to wait. It's too difficult to decide what will be the balance, what will be the people elected, but I'm very confident on the process. The process is an important one, and the process we have decided, the rules, 50% women, 50% men, native nations, and that's important. That's a commitment, and I wish the best for all the people that is now going for the election.
Thank you. And Senator Letelier, do you think that these delegates are up to this task? Being able to find compromise and cooperation in rewriting your constitution?
Look, I would say the following: they have no other possibility. So yes, compromise is a complex process. Not everyone is always committed to compromise, much less in a society as Chile, which is very polarized at this point due to different factors. The reality of the pandemic has not helped. That has created a state of mind which is not always pro-compromise. It has made people react in different manners. But I'd say people have to be able to compromise. Secondly, the agreement makes it an obligation that 2/3 of the assembly members have to agree on the content of the Constitution so that something can be put in place. If it is not put in place, what is the challenge for majorities and minorities? Is that those matters which are not put in the Constitution, which will require in the future a higher quorum for its modification, those themes which are not put in the Constitution will only require a simple majority to change them. Hence, they are the members of the assembly, if they are thinking of the future in a creative manner, in a responsible manner, and I will believe that they will be responsible, will have to seek compromise on a series of matters, and I think we can identify many of them in our conversation. Hence, there will be a tendency to compromise. There will always be some sectors who are not agreeing with that. Now, we do have a new phenomena, in which in Chile it is a challenge, is that for the first time, Chile has taken the option, it's the only country, which will be equal participation of men and women in the participation of creating a new constitution. Now, it is very challenging, wonderful, in my point of view, it is extraordinary, but it's the first time someone will dare create a constitution with parity. Now, I think that is a tremendous challenge in societies which are very patriarchal in its structures and its thinking and its the distribution of power, because constitutions, what they do is distribute the rules of the society and power. And hence that will be a certain dimension which perhaps will be the most uncomfortable for some, but I think it will be very challenging and will force compromise without a doubt.
Right. So you both brought up the fact that the Constituent Assembly will be made up of, half men and half women. And, many, both I think in Chile and around the world, are viewing this as a feminist victory. So, we know that many of the protests leading up to the initial referendum demanded gender parity in many forms, calling from body autonomy and abortion rights to rights for trans and non-binary folks, to equal pay, protections against domestic violence and femicide. These are all issues that many called for throughout the protests, and I think that ultimately led to the referendum. So with this in mind, and knowing that it will be, half men and half women, how do you think that this will influence Chile's new constitution and its future? And how do you think that this will make sure that it's not just looking at issues as women's issues, but as maybe human rights issues? Senator Pugh?
Thank you very much, Haley. Well, I believe that if it's a starting point, it will be the standard. Once you start with something that tends to be stable, let's say gender parity will be for sure in many aspects, and maybe in the future Congress, we could be forced for that. Some people will say, well, that's not the way to do it because you're forcing something, but sometimes it could be. The other one, it's all the First Nations, the one that's going to be having recognition, and most probably they will have reserved seats. And that's something that we have to discuss. So all these new ideas that we are testing them, most probably they will stay. And it's going to be part, of course, of the way the Even the state should organize in a way to provide opportunities for both genders, and the way that it's going to be an example for also the private sector and opening opportunities. The gender breach are giant. For instance, one that I'm fighting for is a one of a woman in technology and digital technology, 15%. And it's very, very small. I don't know why, if you check in our part of the world, but the large companies of data, they are run by men. And there are very few women there, and it's a huge opportunity. Well, we have to understand the problem and to make it to change, but making rules. And the new rules are the ones that are going to be, of course, from some way part of this process. As I told, we're a social lab. We have agreements, we have these rules, and we're going to see how it works. Thanks, Haley.
Thank you. Senator Letelier, any thoughts from you? I think, can you unmute? There we go. Oh, one more time. Try it again.
There.
Yes.
There we go. Honestly speaking, I think it is a tremendous challenge to have a parity constitutional assembly. Now, allow me to share the following thoughts with you. What would happen if in the US there was a parity constitutional assembly to debate people's rights and the way they organize? Many of the themes which are in constant debate in the states and at the federal level would be very differently discussed if there was the same amount of women as men in those debates. Regarding childcare, regarding the responsibility of caretakers, regarding the responsibility or the rights of pension programs, which will give parity in pension resolutions or value of pensions for men and women who end up taking on their social benefits at different ages. What will be the reality of the societies? And I think this is one of the peculiar points, which I think is very challenging when we talk of gender gaps and gender equality. Now, in Chile's debate today, some, which is a point I do not necessarily agree upon, but want to demand that there be gender parity in everything. And I say everything. They wanted that all businesses, public and private, have to have the same amount of men and women in their directory bodies and the CEOs. And this will create a constitutional debate regarding that participation. I think it is a challenge. And I want to say, perhaps this will be a difficult challenge for some, because in Chile, for some reason which I cannot explain personally, with a remote country on the planet, which is a small society numerically considering, with around 18 million people, has had an eruption on gender rights like no other society. I don't know if there have been other societies with the massivity we have had in marches and manifestation of women's rights against violence as has occurred in Chile. Now, this is a very peculiar point, and I think that is a very, for me, it creates a hopeful situation. Now, these has to do with value debates, organizational debates. Now, the main debates we will have will not be on gender, will not be on original people's rights. They will be present. It will be complex. The main debates will be on another sphere. Will be probably on two spheres. On the sphere of what are the public goods the state will guarantee to all Chileans. It is a debate more proper of which abandoned neoliberal thought, which will tend towards a more social democratic positions of what is the role of the state in the creation of the provision of public goods. which is a debate which is taking place in all parts of the world today, in education, in housing, and health. And on the other hand, very strong debate, in my perception, on not only the role of the state, but also of how environmental challenges. I think there was a big second debate. It has to do with what happens with water, what happens with mineral or riches, what happens with, I'd say, the public natural resources of the society and how they are administered. I do not believe that there will be a huge debate on public enterprise or private enterprise. I do not believe there will be a huge debate on the way Chile inserts itself in the international community and in free trade agreements. I do not believe that those will be the debates. I think the debates will be on a more limited type of discussion, which has a lot to do with the points of conflict we lived with the interruption of democracy in 1973, with the Constitution, which was imposed in 1980, and with the challenges we have as a society, in which we have to deal with these two topics, the role of the state and the role of natural resources in our development in the future, so that we can overcome, I'd say, something we all desire. Left and right, we want to overcome the levels of inequality in our society, because with the persistence of these inequalities for different reasons, some for a problem of values, other for more pragmatic reasons, we need social cohesion. And today, what is a challenge in Chile is its social cohesion. We have fractured the society, and we have to find a way of rebuilding what was fractured or what is fractured today.
Thank you, Senator. So just to remind our audience, if you have any questions, you can submit those through the Q&A function here on Zoom. We'll be getting to those in just a moment here. I'm going to ask one more question before we turn it over to audience Q&A. I know that both of you have worked extensively throughout your careers to incorporate issues of cybersecurity, data privacy, and critical digital infrastructure protections. So, Senator Pugh, you and I had a chance to discuss prior to this webinar about the work that you're doing. And Senator Letelier, I know that you're working on, bringing internet infrastructure and the ability for rural communities to have access to things like 5G internet. So this obviously is a very important topic to both of you. How do you think that these issues might be incorporated into Chile's new charter? And is that an important piece of writing a new constitution in the world that we live in today, a technologically advanced world where internet is becoming a need rather than just a want for people to survive and thrive? Senator Pugh?
Haley, well, internet now, we depend on it. That's why it's critical infrastructure. As water, we are made of water. 60% of our body is water. And there's a human right, and we recognize at least 100 liters per person a day. So if there's the state has to provide water to the people. Now, what will happen with internet? How many kilobits will be assigned to a person in order to be connected? And that's an issue we can discuss. But what we don't discuss is that we need to be connected. And that's why I promote not only the right to connect, but also the relationship between the citizens and the state through transactions that can provide better digital services. With one principle, it's once only. You provide your data, personal data, once to the state, and it's stored in only one place. Later on, the state has to keep that information safe, and don't ask it again and provide you services. Let's say if you qualify for something, you will not be asked, you will be receiving services. So it's a complete change. And this is a new type of government. It's a government as a service. And that's quite interesting. We have to discuss. There are some countries in the world that are doing this, like Estonia, Finland, Nordic countries. Well, we can do it if we can have first connection. So in order this to happen, you need to assure the connection and the bandwidth and the quality. And that's why fiber optic is so important. If you don't have fiber optics, it will happen what happened to Senator Letelier. The region where he is most probably not good connected, and then we have this failure. So first there's connectivity issues, and that what we call the digital urbanization. As we do the urbanization of cities, we have to do it at the digital world. But also you need to do all the digital alphabetization and digital education. And finally, the digital inclusion. Everybody should be part of this. So it's quite challenging to say, okay, we can put it down in the Constitution. The problem is how we're going to do it, how we're going to guarantee, because we believe it's important. It provides opportunities to everybody. It will increase the knowledge. It will increase all the networking. It's a much better world. But having said that, you have to protect it. If you do digital transformation, we have a new law of a digital transformation of the state in the next 5 years, you need to do it with cybersecurity. Otherwise, you will be putting all those people in risk, and necessary risk. So we have to provide new rights, but also the state has to create a better environment in order to control this new scenarios. That's basically what I can tell you, Haley.
Thank you. And Senator Letelier, any thoughts? Unmute one more time.
By all means, thank you very much, Haley. I don't know what the statistic is in the US regarding what % of the population has access to internet and to what quality of internet. Because today when we talk about 3G, 4G, or 5G, what we're talking about is of access to different technologies. What we need as consumers is access to 4G. We don't need 5G. And I will try to explain why. Because in the connectivity we want to have connection of voice, of data, covered by the technology of 4G. 5G has the capacity of processing a huge amount of data so that we can effectively advance towards the Internet of Things. It's a more autonomy which we need in hospitals and big logistic processes, but for the day-to-day citizen, the access to basic internet. That means that this type of meetings, webinars, allow us to see each other, to talk to each other, that we all of a sudden don't become frozen, is fundamental. Now, in Chile, what is the reality we have lived in the pandemic? Because the pandemic has had tremendous problems, tremendous, I'd say, pains for the hundreds of thousands who have died and who have had to take on this virus. But it has also taught us some things. And one of the things we have learned is about connectivity, of working at home, of using internet, of being able to relate in a different manner, of having these seminars. In another time, we would have had to travel. We would have traveled, gotten on a plane to have a seminar, to have these conversations. That is not what happens today. But how many people in our societies have access or accessibility to internet? The drama we are living in Chile, and I imagine it happens in other countries like the US, in education today, where we have pandemics, where we have restriction of schooling. How many children, young, or in the university have access to internet and can follow their study processes without going to be before a teacher. The reality in our society is that this is dramatic for many. And we do believe, and with Kenneth, we agree fully on this point, that as health, as education, as housing, the access to internet has to be a public good. It has to be guaranteed, the accessibility by the society, by institutional process. Why? Because if you do or don't have access to internet today, those who have versus the have-nots creates a tremendous gap in the opportunities in society. The need versus the guarantee is fundamental. Now, when we talk about accessibility, we have to have two debates. One is the presence of fiber optic in all type of housing projects in all our states and all our cities and all our regions. And the second element is how much does it cost to have accessibility? We have these two debates and we have to create the correct incentives. And I think that is something we share with Kenneth. We need this be a guarantee, and we will debate on which are the best incentives, which in a constitution of the 21st century have to be included.
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator. So a couple quick questions from the audience. We are running short on time here, as the time always flies in these discussions. We have a question from Suzanne. She says, how are the candidates for this process chosen? Senator Letelier, can I pass that question to you?
Technically, they are, thank you very much, Suzanne. The members of the Constitutional Assembly are elected the same way the members of the House of Representatives, in our case, the Cámara of Diputados, are elected. It is a proportional system. It is by districts. It is a proportional law. It has been very complex. I must say that having a campaign in which financing is public financing for these campaigns is very complex, and doing electoral campaigns in the middle of a pandemic is very, very, very complex. But technically, it is the same way members of the House of Representatives are elected by a proportional system.
Thank
Now,
you.
we do have a correction because we established two elements, as the Kenneth said at the beginning. We have a quota of indigenous people who will participate. They are elected with a different ballot. And there's a number of members of indigenous people representatives elected. And we have a corrective system for the first time to guarantee gender parity.
Thank you. And in our last moment here, Senator Pugh, we have a question from Conrad saying, opening the writing of a state constitution to all people is an admirable, albeit challenging goal. Much of the, many of the challenges we've talked about tonight. How much of the time is the process expected to take? And is the participation voluntary, or are there rules that will obligate certain individuals to participate?
Well, first, the people that will be participate will be these delegates that will be elected using the same system as the deputies. They are running now the different lists. Every party has allowed them to get into their list, and also independents. Going to be people that they don't belong to any party, and we are providing them all the resources, even the access to the media, to the TV, in order to present their programs. Once they are elected, they have 9 months. 9 months in order to work together and to propose. And if it's required, they can ask for a 3-month extension period. So actually it's a year, a working time in order to produce a document that can be later on asked to all the country. Once again, we're going to an exit poll, and the way that the people have to vote again if the new constitution that was written in 1 year is the one that they would like to have. People will be, of course, we are a democratic country. The open society will be working closely, but they will not be represented in the voting. Only those 155 will be voting, and 2/3 are required in order for something to be written. If not, well, they have to find a way how to do it. And 9 months plus 3, that's a year of working span. That says Haley.
Thank you so much. Senator Pugh, Senator Letelier, I wish we could spend more time. This has been such a wonderful discussion, and I thank you both for being with us this evening. We deeply appreciate each of you sharing your time, your perspective with us. In a world that often feels so divided, it certainly inspires hope, knowing that two individuals from different political parties, from a country that we're all learning so much about can come together and talk about this monumental effort that's taking place in Chile. It's a beacon of democracy and cooperation and compromise, and I thank you for your time. I also thank our audience this evening, including members of the World Affairs Council and our new friends, the Chilean-American Chamber of Commerce, for joining us tonight. A big thank you to our sponsors who make nonpartisan civil programming like this possible. It allows us to help bring Philadelphia to the world and the world to Philadelphia. We especially thank our sponsors of the Beyond Our Borders Spotlight Chile series, the Delaware River Stevedores, the Port of Philadelphia, Western Fumigation, Maritime Exchange for the Delaware River and Bay, and Tasty Fruity International. Thank you so much to our series co-presenters, the Chilean-American Chamber of Commerce, and thank you to the Honorary Consulate of Chile, Benjamin Leavenworth. We hope you enjoyed tonight's discussion, and we do say, please stay tuned for future programming. You can check our website, wacphila.org, for other events that we have coming up, both in this series and through the remainder of the year. Thank you again for being with us, senators, and we wish you all the luck, and we wish your country luck as it embarks on this process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.